That's not good.
Oh, dear, that's not good.
Ah, yes, it is good.
It's time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. Thedartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Okay.
Little pause.
Yeah. Welcome to Dart Talk, eh?
Hi, eh?
Welcome to the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's opening night for hockey.
Yes, it is.
Right? We needed to, work that
Show
in
our
somehow.
support.
That's right. It's a new season. Welcome to Dart Talk, loyal listeners, people around the world. Steve Ponciel and Mystery Mark. Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks. Windy City Fabricators, Redwood Darts, Jeff Dotson, Melissa Frank, everybody for listening. And how are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
You had
Yourself?
I'm wiped.
You're wiped.
I'm wiped. I'm wiped.
League night wear you out
I'm
last
telling you,
night?
I don't know if it's age. I'll get to the age part, but yeah, I think it has something to do with it. And I don't know. League is not like it used to be for me.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
I know that for a fact.
What you were telling me something earlier, but you didn't finish. What is DOF?
DOF, right. Well, this
Does
is
that
the
have to
age
do
thing.
with, does that have to do with the league?
No, it has to do with, did you ever see a bumper sticker that said, what would Jesus do?
Well, of course.
Okay. Well, you know me. I'm into TLAs.
WWJD.
Right. I'm into three-letter acronyms,
Uh-huh.
TLAs. And I'm sitting in traffic this morning, like on the south side behind some bozo with no brake lights, a rusted-out bumper, and this WWJD sticker. And I'm sitting there. I missed another light because of this guy, because he doesn't know what he's doing. And I'm like
Because
thinking,
Jesus didn't tell him to turn.
well, here's the thing: when somebody drives really, really poorly, I try to guess. Like, is it a guy? Is it a girl? Is it like somebody new to the country that doesn't know how to drive? Is it a kid?
They 90
whatever.
years old. Well, yeah.
Right. And actually, the way this guy was driving, I'm like, this has to be some like doddering old fool who literally, I don't know, is in the car for some reason and hasn't driven in 3 months. So finally, I get a chance to pass him up, and sure enough, it's some elderly guy. And I'm just sort of like, oh, I never, ever want to be that guy. So now I'm on Lakeshore Drive, and I like sort of spaced out a little bit and cut someone off. Not real bad.
Sort of.
It wasn't real bad, but I was kind of like, oops. And I'm like, oh, so who's the DOF now? Who's the doddering old fool?
Okay.
It's kind of me. But then I was thinking about this bumper sticker, and I'm like, what if I got a bumper sticker that said, WWADOFD? Like, what would a doddering old fool do? Because if you could figure out what the doddering old fool would do and then just not do that, you'd be okay.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So, last week, we interviewed the CDC honcho, Pizza Terra, and I'm still, like, totally unsold.
Okay.
On whatever marketing concept, whatever plan they have. I would like to see it in writing, because I am more convinced than ever that I think they're missing an opportunity from a marketing standpoint, doing things the way they're doing it.
We get that.
Okay.
But you're only stuck on one aspect of the whole thing.
Is it a doddering old fool strategy is what I basically came up with in my head. No, I'm asking, is it?
Is what theirs?
Well,
or
okay,
your concept of what you want them to do?
We'll get some results, but right off the bat, there's a bunch of people in Hull, England, trying to qualify for Lakeside. Mm-hmm. 2 Canadians made it through, Jeff Smith and Maria Mason. Congrats. Hey, wonderful. 2 great people. I met Maria in Michigan this year, and, I've met Jeff years ago, and, we've knocked heads a couple of times. He's a fine player. Dave Cameron is already in. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Widmer is already in. So we'll have 4 people, 4 North Americans.
North Americans, right.
But they're not representing North America, right? The Canadians are representing Canada, and Jimmy Widmer is representing the U.S. Mm-hmm. So that's where the disconnect begins in my mind.
Okay.
Right? So from a marketing standpoint, if you look at Canada, Canada is doing just fine. It's America that's the problem. So if you're going to start something new, make it American. Sure, the Canadians can come down and play American events. That's fine. But to make it some sort of continental thing, I think is conceived in a doddering old fool kind of manner. I don't think it's sharp thinking that did this. That's kind of just where I'm at with that. Does that make sense? Let the Canadians play, but make it an American thing so you could market it in America. It's held in America.
Right.
Okay? You could say it's the Western Hemisphere Dart Association, too, if you want. It's all in the Western Hemisphere.
I don't think it's going to be the downfall of the CDC if it doesn't work.
No. It isn't downfall. What always concerns me is, what's the thinking behind this? Because if the thinking is flawed, it will be flawed in other things they do. And if it's flawed in other things they do, then you're going to have a flawed product lack of success is likely.
But nothing's perfect, okay? That's true. There's always flawed thinking, and then you fix them. No. And once you start being successful, you fix your glitches. I mean,
except stuff doesn't get fixed.
Tell me, okay,
what flawed thinking in the ADO has ever been fixed?
Well, I'm just saying that's hopefully there's a time for change. But okay, Windows 8 comes out. Was it flawed?
Yes.
Okay. Did they try and fix it?
Well, yeah.
Okay. All right, but
they have a history of fixing things.
Yes, but give them a chance.
I am giving them a chance.
Okay,
but it's like
this isn't the ADO.
Laying the ground.
This isn't the ADO. Is it the ADO?
I sure hope not.
Okay, but so you're saying
which,
did the ADO fix anything?
I just wanted to say that up front because it struck me as
I'm just saying, give them a chance. If it all comes down to it, then you could sit there and say, yes, I was right because they had flawed thinking and they never fixed it, so be it. But everybody has flawed thinking. They're not trying to get something off the ground.
I'm not putting it on the record just so I could say I told you so when they fail. I want them to examine this, and then when they have a marketing plan, I would like to see it somehow incorporated in there because I think it's important enough to consider.
Sure.
And I don't think they considered it.
With that.
I don't think they considered it at all. I think that, however this was conceived, this was always sort of assumed. And I don't know how you would make an assumption like that. And so you question him on it, and I re-listen to the thing, and I see nothing compelling at all from Pete Cetera on this at all. And you could tell from his answers that he hadn't even considered anything but that, which concerns me greatly.
All right.
From laying the groundwork. There was some Lucy Arnaz movie. I can't remember what it was called, but literally they were building a house. It wasn't Ricky. It was whoever the guy was in the movie. No, it wasn't Desi, but it was. So she, and I don't know if maybe it was an episode from I Love Lucy. I don't know what it was, but what happened was she went to the site and moved all the lines around because she's like, well, I think I want the kitchen a little bigger here and a little bigger there, and so she moved all the little lines, and then the truck came to lay the foundation, and it was all screwed up. It was like zigzags and all this, and she's like, oh my God, now we have to tear this up, and we don't have the money and all this stuff. That's my nightmare.
Okay.
Is that you're laying a really poor foundation and you're not going to be able to recover from it. Right? It's one thing to fix a bug. You don't a week later come out with Windows 9. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I will see. Right. I just want this I'm going to be on the record on this, and then I'm not going to harp on it every week. But you're like, are they the ADO? I want to talk about diddling.
Okay.
Okay, so you played League last night.
I did.
Right. Somebody came up to me years ago at a blind draw, like a Friday night blind draw, and they're like, yeah, you can diddle. It doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And this is somebody that had been playing for, decades. And I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't really matter? Oh, to win the diddle, it doesn't really matter if you go first. And I'm like, okay.
It kind of matters a little bit.
Well, I guess if you throw 45 Dart 501 games, maybe it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah. Not
what matters is who's going to be the first one to hit 10% of their doubles, right? Or something. But
sure.
So I'm playing cricket doubles.
I would have to say, like in brass and nickel, maybe the diddle doesn't matter as much.
You think is one because the games are longer and it evens it out? Is that what it is? Okay. I was going to ask you about that.
I can see that thought process. I mean, even as a nickel, well, technically I'm rated tungsten, but I play nickel and I play like a nickel player. I can see why it doesn't matter. Like people would think that. You don't think it matters in nickel? I do, but I can see why people would think that. Well, it's not that big of a deal. Because there are, I mean, you're talking 21, 24, 27, 30 Dart, 501 games, which means, if you play well, 18, 21 darters, then it doesn't really matter. But if you start, or then it matters. But if both players are playing that, but you get into a 27, 30, 33 dart match, and it's all because nobody's hitting the doubles, then really the diddle didn't matter.
It didn't really. It's more a matter of like who can hit their finishes, and then
right.
So you're saying that the better you get, the more the diddle matters.
Yeah, because of your countdown is quicker.
Okay.
And then you get or your opponent is counting down just as quick, and then the diddle matters because you get the first whack at the double.
All right. So I'm playing cricket doubles yesterday, and we split the first two legs, so we're diddling in the third leg. Mm. My partner diddles, goes up to the board. They both miss. He stands there. He looks at him. He's like, I can't call this. So and he says this to like the other team, and I'm just like, well, then redo it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So he pulls them, and they redo it. We lose the diddle and get absolutely smoked in a cricket game, right? And then afterwards, I'm like, well, it's not like we played that good, but it's hard to beat a team if you let them go first every leg, which is how it worked out, because they won the diddle in the first leg, and we won.
Yeah.
Total steal. And then, so they get to go first in the second game, and they win that one, and then we rediddle, and then they won the diddle, so they went first 3 games. Mm-hmm. So we're up a break.
It's hard to beat them, right?
Well, we're up a break, and we lost the match.
Yeah.
So, which is, that happens, no big thing. But afterwards, because I was trying to remember if we went first once, because it was like half hour, did we win the diddle in the first leg? Or, and he says, well, yeah, but actually, I won that diddle. It was just so close, I couldn't call it. And I was like, what?
What?
Swear to God. So I started telling him all these diddling stories. Because on the road, on the diddle tour, I have seen so much monkey business around third leg diddles. Everybody handles it differently. So I ran these 3 different diddle stories by him so he could see how you do this. Do we have time for 3 stories?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So story number 1 is I'm chalking for very prominent players, and I believe it was cricket. And the one diddle's outside the wire of the bull. So the next player goes up, throws it. I kind of tilt my head over. I'm like, second dart. And then the player who throws the first dart is like, no. You don't call that. Mm-hmm. We call that. You don't ever call a diddle. And I'm like, oh, okay, call it. He's like, it's a do-over. The other team doesn't say anything. He pulls the darts, goes back, they re-diddle. On the plane ride home, I whip out my ADO rule book. Sure enough, Chalker calls a diddle.
Oh.
In an ADO tournament.
Right.
So right there, here's one of the top players in America being totally wrong and stealing the diddle. Mm-hmm. Now, I would assume, and that's why I'm not using a name, I would assume that he knows the rule and was just sort of like, well, I'm going first. I don't really care.
Right.
All right, so that's episode 1. Episode 2 is I'm playing... I want to say I was at the Vegas Classic maybe 3 years ago. I'm playing another top tournament player. And we diddle. He misses the bull. I miss the bull. So I go up because I threw the second dart. And I look. I stand sideways so he could see both darts. And I point. And I'm like, I got you by a little. And he kind of like nods his head. I pull the darts, come back, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I won the diddle. He's like, you didn't win the diddle. I'm like, I stood there and pointed to you. You nodded your head. He's like, I didn't nod my head.
Really?
And I'm like, oh, really? So what are we supposed to do? He's like, well, it's a do-over. I'm like, I won the diddle. He's like, well, I didn't see it. I'm like, well, you could have went up. And so we have a 2-minute discussion.
Yeah.
And this is all BS from this guy. Because, and I don't remember now if we just decided to redo it over again, but there was a guy stealing the diddle without moving a muscle by just arguing with you. And we had no chalker.
Okay. Right. So you had to call it on your own. Sure.
Yeah. And it was like, that really put me off for the entire match because I'm like, what does this guy think? I'm going to cheat him? I stood there and it was all BS. It was all like, you know, this is something apparently some people do. They pretend that they agree until you come back and pull the dart so there's no way to verify it. And then they're like, oh, no. You didn't win that diddle. Like, really?
Yeah.
Here's the third one. The third story is, I think I was chalking for 2 very prominent tournament players, and they both missed the bull. And then I lean over to see who won the diddle, and one of the players says, well, look, that's got to be a do-over. You can't win a diddle on something like that. Before I could even tell who was in or out, and I just turned around and looked. Then I looked at the darts, and one was clearly closer than the other. And I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
You don't want me to call it? You want to? It's your match. You want to do it that way? You know, I'm out of it because I'm not gonna.
And the other guy agreed.
Apparently. And there were only 2 morals to this story because my partner basically felt guilty calling a diddle that he didn't win by enough, and it's like, how much is enough?
Yeah.
The photo finish at the racetrack, right. Hey, you know what? It was only half a nose. Let's call it even. You don't do that.
Right.
If a pitch is on the black, it's either a ball or a strike. It isn't like, you know what? Just do that pitch over. I don't know what it was. I mean, you don't do that.
It's a 3-2 count.
It's a sport. Somebody's got to go first.
Right.
So you don't have to be like the liar who's like pretending to agree until you pull the darts and then saying, well, I didn't agree. So you don't have to be a liar about it, but at the same time, you don't have to feel guilty that you didn't win by 4 barrels.
Right.
Right? And then
did your partner get this concept?
Well, yeah, but I mean, after I told him all these stories, and I'm like, there's a reason you call it the Diddle Tour. Because the diddles are like, if you look at the guys who are winning, they're guys who are winning the diddle, especially in the third leg, especially playing cricket. When you're giving somebody the 20s.
Yeah.
So I was just sort of like, so the title of this segment was supposed to be Diddling for Fun and Profit, but the real solution would be to get rid of this stupid diddle rule that the ADO's had for, I don't know, decades, and just go to the PDC thing. Everything gets pulled. You have to hit a bull. Everybody gets a clean look. End of story.
Yeah. Right.
Now what is the liar going to say? That wasn't a bull. Yeah, it was. Shut up. I'm going first. End of story.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you.
I mean, the guy who
hold on a second before you keep going on.
The views, opinions, rants, and rampages expressed on Dart Talk do not necessarily reflect individually or collectively those of our sponsors, co-sponsors, wannabe hosts, hearing-impaired critics, or those with a penchant for attitudinal dysfunction. We at Dart Talk strive to provide you, the listener, with an educational, entertaining, and fun-filled experience each and every week. If after the show you, the listener, find yourself feeling uneducated, unentertained, and or bored, we at Dart Talk consider that your own problem.
I figured we should get that out of the way.
That's a good one. The other diddle story, I think, I've said before, I was playing like this really great player in Chicago that when I was coming up, I had a hard time beating him, and we always ended up playing cricket. He was a great cricket player. And I don't remember it real clearly, but basically I think he threw a double bull. And I went up, left it in, threw mine, and then the minute my dart hit the board fell to the floor. So, we laughed, and I was like, I have no idea whether you have to throw that double bull again.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of said, well, let's just figure it was in. And mine was a single, so you could start. Let's fix the board. I mean, but it was kind of funny. We're like, what's the rule
How's
here?
How does that happen? Yeah.
But I mean,
was the dart still stuck in the board when it hit the ground?
No, the board was flat on the.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm dart was under his board.
Yeah.
It wasn't propped up like this. Yeah, I mean, no. But all these, and I've had issues where guys don't realize you're not allowed to throw at. How many guys, there's a bull in there, there's a bull in there. The next guy goes up and throws the third one. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pull yours, according to the ADL.
Okay.
Right, you could leave his in, but you got to pull yours. You can't use your own bull to help you. A lot of people don't know the rule on tournaments and stuff. In the league, I don't think the people know the rule, and I'm not sure what rule our league even uses. If they use the ADO rule, that most of the league players don't understand it.
No, yeah, I don't know what. I don't know what rules our league uses either.
So I mean, I think if the PDC rule is so much simpler for the less experienced players, obviously you probably don't want to stay away from it because they have a hard time hitting a bull. Then
speaking of which, though, when we come back from a break, diddling. I got a question about a rule for you that happened to me yesterday. All
right, we'll do some rules in a minute. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark C. Pronunciaman. We're off the diddles. We'll be right back.
Those of the hosts. They in no way should be misrepresented, misinterpreted, or made to claim that the universe is against you, your family, your city, or the darting community at large.
Okay, back for the second quarter of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts. Yeah, in the chat room, they're telling me all tied darts have to be pulled, which I believe that's correct. Again, it's too complicated.
Right.
It's just too the PDC rule is so much cleaner, especially for tournament play. Especially if you have to diddle every leg, which, I think that's getting a little bit phased out, at least, when they're starting to go to best of 5 and stuff for BDO ranked events and stuff, which is good. I would... The soft tip diddling is, I think it's a tremendous disadvantage to go second.
In soft, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't seem to be able to go in off the barrel. I don't seem to get help in soft tip like you can. You can get a lot of help from somebody's miss, but I don't think in soft tip it just seems like I get slapped out of there. If
really.
Yeah, if they've got one in the black,
like
kind of not in the, obviously not in the one hole, you have to pull that one, but I don't know. Just seems harder to go second.
Maybe because the darts are lighter?
No, I think the targets get obscured.
Right.
When you're playing a normal thing and you flight one out, sometimes it counts, or maybe often it counts.
Right, sure.
I don't know, but,
that's true.
On the diddle, it just seems like the Dartslive thing where the machine does the coin flip to see who goes first. That's a flip you really want to win.
Right, exactly.
Because I'll tell you, the fifth leg diddle ask anybody who's played soft tip, that to win the diddle in the last leg is like hugely crucial. And I would think even for the like, the mid-level, lower-level players, it probably factors in more than it does in steel.
I would think so, too. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so that's it.
Right.
Thanks in the chat room for pointing that out about the pulling the tide darts.
So last night I'm playing in the cricket singles, and we're in the third leg, and we were close to the end. I had 20s and 18s open, and I had a slight lead in points. He was starting to close the bullseyes and score on the bulls. Or no, actually, he had... I can't remember exactly. I think he had 15s closed. So he's scoring on 15s.
You have 20s and 18s.
I have 20s and 18s.
And he's got the first whack at the bull.
Yeah, but he's also scoring on 15s, right?
Okay.
So I'm actually going for the bull. I had a decent lead.
Okay.
And less than... anyway, yeah. So I go up and I throw a bullseye and I hit a single 20. I throw a bullseye and I hit a single 18. And
Sweet.
Then I miss the bull.
Okay.
I walk up to the board. I tell the chalker 38 points.
Okay.
I pull my darts. I turn around. He goes up, hits a triple 15, and then goes and closes 20s, and then goes for another point. And I walk back, and one of my teammates says she didn't write down 38 points. She only wrote down 20. So I went back and I said, I told you I said 38, and because the 18 was close. It didn't, So my question is, obviously, is it my job to, not only did I tell her 38, but do I actually have to, I'm supposed to watch and make sure she writes it down correctly before he throws the dart.
Yeah. It's all your fault.
My opponent said, he goes, I heard you say 38. They fixed it. I don't know if it would have changed his throw because he would have been 18 points down further and stuck on the 15s instead of closing.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
he played it like a good sport.
Mm-hmm, right.
And he was honest admitting that you threw but I mean literally last night, I'm playing league and I'm standing there with my hand hovering over my darts, watching the chalker write it down.
Yeah, because technically that's what you're supposed to do.
Technically in cricket, once he throws, you can't change it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In 501, before you throw, you can correct your last turn, which also came out. Our chalking was subpar last night.
So 501 is slightly different.
In 501, if you throw like an 85 and they mark up 84, you come to the line, you're like, no, last turn it was an 85.
Okay.
They can change it before you throw.
Right.
In cricket, though, because so much depends on what the other guy does, the minute the other team's dart is in the air,
it's too late.
Technically, you're not allowed to change your score. Now, if your opponents agree,
right.
I've seen teams where they went back in time and did a redo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's fairer? I mean, you don't want the game to hinge on somebody who's chalking, who's volunteering to help you out by chalking, who made a mistake. You don't want the game or the leg or whatever to hinge on that. Right? It's too. You'll never get anyone to chalk.
Yeah,
I know Jill. There's certain people Jill won't chalk for because they gave her a hard time about some slip up she made, or actually she stiffed us out of 40 points once. Me and Ralph were playing somewhere on the road, and Jill was chalking, and Ralph said he shot a ton 40, and Jill's like, no, it was only a ton, and Ralph's like, really? She's like, yeah. He's like, okay. He comes back and he's like, she said it was a ton. I'm pretty sure it was a ton 40. I'm like, well, it looked like a ton 40 from here, but it's like, okay.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean, but then, she's been yelled at for stuff like that, and that's exactly what the chalker is supposed to do. The chalker is supposed to lean over, verify the score, and write it down. Mm-hmm. They're not supposed to, just stand there and you say 181, and they write down 181.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I agree with that. I don't like the chalkers that stand there just staring at the board and wait for you to say the score. I like them. They shouldn't move until the third dart's thrown, but they should look over and I like the chalkers that stand a little off to the side and look at the darts as they go on the board and start counting as the darts are going in, so they have an idea, even though they might not. And then when they get to it and then
that's where soft tip has a huge advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, what if the machine makes a mistake?
Right.
You can't fix it. That's one of the rules of soft tip is the machine's always right, even when I've seen it be clearly wrong. At least I thought so. Or what was the deal? you throw a bull, but it doesn't register. But then sometimes you're allowed to tap it, and sometimes you're not, depending on if it flighted or something. And but on the Dartslive, if it's in, it counts. But apparently, like I played the bull shooter like 5 years ago, and basically I've got 3 bulls in there, and the guy's like, "No, that one doesn't count
because it didn't
count
register."
It. I'm like, "Well, it's clearly in. You can see it. You want to go up, take a picture?"
And I thought that was the rule. You could, if it's stuck in the board, you could tap if it didn't register.
I mean, it's sort of like anything other than, hey, if it's in, it counts is silly to me. But again, you got to call an official over and like hit some buttons and back it up. I don't know how that works, but
but I mean, I thought the guy was a really good sport about it, obviously,
he was.
and that's what I would have done too. But in the back of my mind, I knew I was wrong. I knew I should have watched her write that score down and made sure it was
do it. And to be honest with you, if you're playing in a league, the way our league in Chicago does it is like the teams alternate chalkers, and I've heard some stories about some home chalking.
Well, and she was chalking for their team, but
that's sad.
I know she didn't do it on purpose. It literally, that 18 was close. It could have gone any way. That's why I actually stated my score.
Some of the bars, they got team trivia going. There's music playing. I mean, it's possible she didn't hear you.
Right.
Sometimes if you're thinking about something, you miss what somebody says.
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible.
Right. She could have been watching the baseball game. Yeah, who knows?
You mean the Major League playoffs were more compelling than your cricket singles match?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Hard to believe.
It was the 8th inning. It was actually pretty compelling. It's hard to concentrate on my dart match.
I don't know. Sports can be cruel. You look at Kershaw, had this like great season, and then in the playoffs, he makes a couple of bad pitches and his team's out of it, and it's on him.
Yeah.
That's got to hurt.
Well, yeah.
And then wild pitching in the winning run.
Well, not only that, they gave up the first 2 runs were unearned.
Oh, were they really?
Oh, yeah. They basically gave that game away.
Wow.
But, it's all about taking advantage of your opportunities.
Yeah.
And basically, every team that's winning is doing that. They're really, whether you get handed to you or not. But
the American League playoff will be interesting. Speed against power.
Yeah.
You're always telling me the home run hitting teams don't do well in the postseason.
Usually that's the way it works, but I mean that didn't stop Baltimore in the first game.
No,
they outslugged them.
Boy, they did. And against a good staff.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen this Ventura guy throw?
Yeah, he throws hard.
He throws hard, but I mean, literally one day the ball is going to come to the plate, and attached to the ball is going to be a hand up to the elbow, because his fundamentals are so bad. I can't imagine his body holding up to that.
I can't either, but yeah.
David Price has a little bit of a recoil. This guy's hopping back to center field. I mean, I just can't imagine that's really going to work. All right, let's talk. What do you want to talk? You want to do the Dartslive? You got the Dartslive?
I do.
The Dartslive event in Ontario was interesting. Singing in the Rain. Congrats.
Yeah.
Should have whipped out the sunglasses. Won that one. The write-up said he got some hometown support. So at least they had a crowd. That's good. Yeah. I like that. I like that there was a crowd. It seems to me the point race ended in a tie. And I'm not sure. They didn't update their website.
Yeah, I haven't seen
They didn't update the website to say how the tie was resolved. I would just assume that Soldier Gates ended up winning it because he won more events. If they didn't do it that way and they turned it into an attendance contest, then I'd be like, well, now wait a minute.
Yeah, that would be...
Right?
You would think your first tiebreaker would be winning events.
Yeah. How else could you possibly break a tie? And then you do it where, like, well, if you had the equal number of firsts, who had the most seconds? Mm-hmm. And if that was equal, who had the most fourths? I don't know how else you would do it that way. Yeah, I don't know how else to break a tie. I wouldn't. If they told me I had to play attendance. If they told me that I had to play a leg against the guy and the winner was, I'd be furious. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, no way. I won 2 out of 6 events. He's won none. How am I not the winner?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I have a feeling that the Dartslive people were kind of astounded that there was a tie. I mean, the way they do the points and everything, the likelihood of a tie, I think, was pretty small. But you got the results there. Run down, you got top 8 and up, or you got top 16 and up? You haven't read results in a while.
Well,
what do you got there?
I could go to 16 if you want me to.
Yeah, do 16.
All right, let's go with David Switzer, Stuart Brown, Tom Curtin.
Tom Curtin.
Justin Fawcett, Desmond Chin, Jason Barlow, Alejandro Reyes, and Dennis J. Sayer Jr. are your top.
I wonder if DJ likes the fact that they publish his name as Dennis.
He might.
Somebody sent me something about, like, do I go by Steve or Steven? Because my Facebook page says Steven. And I only put that in case somebody was looking for me for grammar school. You know? I mean, I don't make anyone call me Steven. My mother calls me Steven.
Yeah, and that's about it.
Yeah, you want to call me Steven? Go ahead. I don't care. Right. But, you know, I go by Steve.
So that's your top 16. Eighth place goes to Bruce Davey. Well, I guess it would be top 8.
Yeah, it'd be top 8.
Bruce Davey, Gary Mawson, Leonard Gates, and Michael Maloney are your top 8.
I believe he goes by Mike.
Okay.
Leonard goes by Soldier. Right.
I don't have that information in front of me here, pal.
Okay.
Tom Sawyer and Raymond Carver. I know he goes by Ray, but
I've never heard anyone call him Raymond.
Ray Carver and Tom Sawyer are your top 4.
Well, now that's weird because Tom Sawyer's real name is Charles. How did he get Tom?
And everybody, right? Who knows?
Well, yeah, because they like take the name off your passport or something, or they card you for this tournament. You actually have to show them a driver's license. Yeah. So it's kind of funny.
Maybe his driver's license says Tom, though.
I thought it was Charles T. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, it's not important.
Larry Butler gets second, and as we already had the spoiler alert,
singing in the rain. Good for him. Good for Sean. Sean's had a good year, I think. I mean, he's won. Well, okay, he had 2 finals in the world stages, which are hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many America's tours he played, but he did really well in them. And he's done good in steel. I mean, he's gone over, played in England. I mean, he's been a busy boy. Busy young man. So, congrats to him. And so this was literally a week after Japan. I'm trying to look. Sean, Larry, Ray. Look down the list. All these guys that played in Japan turned right around and played in Canada. Mm-hmm. And now they're playing in England. They're playing at the Airco Arena in Hull. Today they finished up the qualifiers for the where are we on time? The qualifiers for the Winmau Masters.
I think we're actually due for a break.
All right, we'll come back and we'll talk some Winmau Masters qualifiers and Winmau Masters coming up. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark C. Poncelmo. We'll be right back.
Oh, how about some volume?
Treating fairly its prisoners in their war. Dart Talk agrees to adhere to the Geneva Convention in treating fairly its prisoners in their war against lackluster darting administration and behaviour.
Okay, back for the, second half of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone?
Stay in the zone.
The DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Where were we? What were we talking about?
You wanted to talk about some Windball Masters.
Yeah. Okay. So we had some people, some North Americans over. They had 4 spots for the Americans, or I'm sorry, 4 spots for the men and 2 spots for the women to qualify for whatever they call the Lakeside tournament, whatever the BDO Championship, whatever they call it, in January. The field was somewhere between 256 and 512. There were a lot of buys, so I'm thinking there's maybe like 400 people, something like that. Because they take the top 4, you're basically playing a tournament against 100 people, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Elliot Milk was there. He was one and done. He actually didn't get a bye.
Really?
Yeah, he lost his play-in to a county player. Robbie Phillips was there, I believe. He got a bye and then was out his first match. Same with Larry Butler. Greg Von Leinen from, I think he's around Syracuse, made top 32. And Joe Chaney made top 16.
16, I thought.
So he was 2 matches away because you got to make top 4 to get through. So Joe Chaney did by far the best of the men. For the women, I know Maria Mason got through. I don't know who the other woman who qualified was. It was kind of weird because they kind of stopped updating everything. And I know they got complaints. Sandy Hudson was still in. Paula Murphy had, I thought, lost in top 8. And Marlise Keel was still going in top 8. So Marlise and Sandy and Paula did pretty well. So the American, I always thought our women could stand up to pretty much anyone. So they certainly proved it. And congrats to Maria. She's a real nice young lady for making it through. And then Jeff Smith made it through.
Right.
And
which you said earlier, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it was so funny, you know. I whenever I think of Jeff, I think of somebody who lives literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, I think he lives in Nova Scotia. It's very difficult for him to travel. It's expensive to fly out of there and all this. And for him to actually qualify for Lakeside after getting his PDC Tour card a couple of years ago, I mean, that's as well as anyone's done in North America as far as, like, people coming up. I mean, I don't know if Sean's going to get his tour card. I don't know what his plans are. We should probably get him on the show next week.
When is Lakeside?
Lakeside's like after New Year's.
Oh, okay.
So the World Championships that the PDC host wrap up like New Year's Day, something like that. And then Lakeside starts right after that. And Jimmy Widmer's already in. David Cameron's already in. Jeff Smith is in. It'd be nice to have another American in there. But I think this was the last shot to get anybody in. So Chaney came close. He should have practiced with me. I offered. He put something out there, and I was like, hey, if you want to meet halfway, get a hotel, I'll play with you for 2 days.
Really?
I'll practice with you. Yeah, we'll play long form at 501. Play 2 days with me. It's got to make you a better player. Thinking. You know.
How was that?
Because I'm the kind of guy that will literally stand there and play 501 for 8 hours.
Right. Well, that's true.
And if you play 16 hours of 501 against a player that pushes you, it's going to help. It's going to help your game. Has to. Although today I wouldn't do 18 hours. I wouldn't do 8 hours today. Today I was pretty tired. And I was pretty tired at league last night. I had to get really irritated to start playing well.
That's how tired you were? You
I was
until you were irritated?
Yeah. And then I played well in I had a tough singles match, actually.
What
with one
irritated
of the local guys. Losing.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll do it.
Yeah, well, there are people that I guess hate losing more than they like winning. I wouldn't say that I'm in that category, but, you know, it's kind of, I think those are the people that show really poor sportsmanship. The people that really hate losing more than they like winning are the poor sports, I think.
I would have to agree with that.
Right? I mean, you must know people like that playing, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's such a fine line. I mean, I think, you know, obviously anybody that's competitive hates losing. But, yeah, when you get to the point where you just absolutely hate losing more than winning, it brings out more problems, like we're talking about, the diddling and all that stuff is
yeah, they're in this delusional thing like, well, no, there's no way I could lose that diddle.
Right.
Right?
And,
well,
you know, it brings out way too many problems. So, yeah, that's it. Those are bad situations, and
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are bar shooters who it's more important to them that everybody thinks they're the best player in the bar or something, and then sportsmanship sometimes maybe goes out the window.
Yeah, it takes second
something
fiddle.
like that
Right.
to literally bragging rights, something like that. I mean, that's too bad. Yeah, so tomorrow they start the Winmaw Masters, and that'll be interesting to see. I think if you win the Winmaw Masters, maybe you get in the Lakeside.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or something. I don't know. I have to look and see, because they kind of expanded it a little bit, where they added some extra play-in matches for, people from around the world and stuff. Not the regular BDO players. I mean, they're still guaranteed their spots, and that's how they do things. So why harp on it? Yeah, it was funny. We're talking about like bar shooters and stuff like that. The home bar I'm playing in this season, I've never played in before, and it's one of these places where you stand in the dark, but the boards are fairly well
lit up, yeah.
And man, it's the only place I play that's like that, and I never play well there, and I actually play poorly there.
Mullins on Western is like that.
Yeah, and that's where I started to play, and every now and then I'll pop in there and visit the plaques or something, and I tend to play really well there, but I don't like it. It's dark, and then your eyes have to adjust to the darkness and stuff. And I think maybe because I'm getting old,
as you're staring at a bright board.
Yeah, well, they put those lit surrounds around them now there, so it's even more like, huh? That's just a distraction. Having a lit sign around the board is like, why don't you have it blink too? And I don't know. I mean, the soft tip machines make noise and stuff like that, but not when you're playing. You know what I mean? They don't do it in your backswing.
No, you're right. Right.
So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but it got me to thinking, because where I live in kind of the, I don't know how to describe my neighborhood. How would you describe my neighborhood? Urban, kind of.
Yeah.
In between.
I would say in between, sure.
We've got some upscale restaurants, and then we got a few that aren't that bad, and there's we got a lot of kids out of college, like living in the city with their entry-level jobs or something like that. We got
really
tons
like
of
across
bars.
the street?
No, in the neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of apartments.
Okay.
A lot of apartments, a lot of restaurants, a lot of nightlife.
Yeah.
In my neighborhood, and close to the ballpark. So the average price of a beer is higher in my neighborhood than if you drive to kind of where the studio is.
Right, by far, sure.
So it got me to thinking, because the guy, one of the guys on the team, doesn't like throwing in the dark either. He's like, I don't understand why we're doing this, right? And we told the captain about it, and nothing changed. And then after the match last night, we found the lights. So we flick them on, and I look at my at my teammate. He looks at me. We're smiling, like, all right. Everybody else is like, what? And then the owner of the bar walks by, and she's like, why are the cleanup lights on? And I'm like, because I'm a bit of a mouth, I'm kind of like, because we're not making out back here. We're trying to play darts. We want to see what we're doing.
But you're also, it's not like you're illuminating.
Why am I the only one?
You're not like you're illuminating the whole bar. It's only the dart area.
No, it's the dart area.
It's separated from the bar. So what's the big deal?
Because apparently people like to sit in the dark. It's the only conclusion I can have. You're going to sit in the dark and then watch people play darts and like nurse a Bloody Mary. I mean, I don't know. I just, darts to me became a passion after I went to my first tournament. If I never went to a tournament, I doubt I'd still be playing. Tournaments, I was like, now this is what I'm talking about. A lot of room, great lighting, nice boards, and let's have at it. I mean, that is to me the best you can do. And I saw some pictures of the venue at Hull, and it was nice. It looked pretty good. It looked like a nice big arena, plenty of room and space. I mean, we'll see. I don't know if they're going to stream the Winmaw Masters, but it'll be telecast. So if it's telecast, there's bound to be somewhere on the internet some way to find it. So if we see a reliable link that doesn't have 25 pop-ups, I'll put it on the Dart Talk Facebook page. By the way, you can always email us, darttalk@gmail.com. We have our own Facebook page. We're on Twitter @DartTalk. You can always get the audio at iTunes, at tunein.com, at stitcher.com, and also at our website, darttalk.us. We need to kind of script that so you can read that every week or record it or something.
Right.
Where are we on time?
We're ready for break number 3.
Okay, because I have one kind of cricket thing that we can go over real quick.
Okay.
All right, you're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark C. Pronunciamo. We'll be right back.
The show at your own risk, and that Dart Talk cannot be brought to justice in any court or by any government, including and not restricted to the grand spaghetti monster of the Triple 20.
Okay, back for the fourth quarter of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. He nailed that one. Nice fade. So apparently,
practice.
Yeah, I guess we have a shout out from the chat room to New Orleans. So hello, New Orleans.
Okay.
That Hockey Hall of Fame looks good, man.
I do.
I have to look up.
So.
I wonder if that's in Toronto or Montreal. I would think it's in Montreal. That'd be worth a visit. Montreal's a nice city. I like Montreal.
That picture looks awesome.
Yeah, I wish I had more of the bottom of the entrance there. It's behind your arm, but I don't think there's much more below it anyway. So get this. Okay, so yeah, we haven't talked about
more cricket.
Well, we haven't talked.
Discuss more cricket.
I'm telling you, I'm in Division 1. Division 1 is where I learned a lot of the concepts that, from thermonuclear cricket, which goes back like 25, 30 years, whatever, and then what eventually I started calling hypermodern cricket, which is, how I describe the strategy that I play and the concepts I play. So we're playing in the cricket doubles, and my partner is starting out, and he throws like a high trip 20 in the corner, a single, but right on the top wire, top left corner, and then he throws one in the bottom right corner. So he's got a 2 count on the 20s, and they're kind of angling. The flights are angling toward the middle, so it's going to be hard to get the third one. Yeah, it's kind of covered. I mean, I'm sure you could pound it in there, but it's going to be harder than having a clean look. He tries to jam it in there and ends up either a 1 or a 5. I don't know. And he comes back, and I'm just like, you can't do that. I'm like, you got to throw the high fat 20. You have to close the 20s. If all you can do is throw a 3 count on the 20s, then do it.
Yeah.
You put your opponent to a decision right away whether or not to cover the 20s or go for the 19s first or whatever. If he goes for the 19s first and you get to come back on the 20s, then okay, that's not the end of the world. If he goes like trip 19, trip 19, trip 20, well, okay, you're down.
Nice starts.
Right. You're down, but you can go right to the 18s and game on. Right? If he throws like, 4 19s and a single 20, you're back on the 20s, whatever. The one thing you cannot do
is leave them
open when you don't have to.
Yeah.
If you miss your first dart and then you throw 2 at the triple and, end up with a 2 count, well, okay, good luck. Oh,
absolutely.
Right?
I agree with you, yeah.
So I'm telling him this after we lose and after he tells me how he really did win the diddle, which I'm still like, oh, never do that again. Okay, right? So cut to like an hour and a half later. I'm playing in the cricket singles. I lose the diddle in the first leg, play horrible, get pounded. So I get to start the second leg. I play a little better. I think I started out with a ton and threw a 7 count in there and one going away. So third leg, I totally choked on the diddle. He missed the bull by maybe a barrel, maybe half a barrel, and I missed it by like maybe a barrel and a half.
Right.
I could not believe that I didn't pound a double bull in there. So he goes first, and what does he do? Fat 20, pretty close to the triple, and then a miss.
Whiff.
And I walked right over to Joe, and I'm like, see, I told you, watch what happens. And eventually, I ended up with 720 points, every single one of them on 20s. Mm-hmm. I didn't point any other number, and won by 117.
Because he's going down and closing and pointing and closing and pointing. And
yeah, I threw like a ton, or I threw like an 85. I threw like a 4 mark. And then he went like single 19, trip 19, and then instead of closing the 20s and being down a point and up a number, he threw another 19. Mm-hmm. Well, I went up and threw a ton 40, and he never really got close enough where he felt comfortable to just close the 20s. And we have said this on the episodes where we talk about hypermodern cricket. The number one rule of hypermodern cricket, do you remember what it is?
Close the 20s.
Well, no, it sees the high ground.
Sees the high ground, that's right.
The high ground is the 20s,
yes,
right? If you've closed the 19s and you have one dart to close the 20s, you've seized the high ground. Mm. You have the high number. You have the 19s.
Yes.
Right? Even if you're down some points, so what?
Yeah.
Instead, you want to get into bring a knife to a gunfight where you got the 19s, I got the 20s, I like my chances. Plus, you've already got 2 of them. Mm-hmm. I can't really afford not to point. Right? Because the minute I stop pointing, I lose the 20s. So we played an entire leg where he was throwing 6 counts and 7 counts, and he played really well. And I'm just like, ton 40, ton 80, close, 80, close. And, after the leg was over, and I finished on I was up 57 points, and he had just closed the bulls with 3 bulls. So I'm like 57, okay. Well, 67, 77, so a single 20 is worth 2 bulls. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to hit at least 120 before I go to the bull, and boom, trip 20. Now I'm up 117. I'm like, okay, that's 5 bulls.
Yeah.
All right, I'm safe.
Now he doesn't even have winning
He doesn't
darts
have game
anymore.
shot.
Right.
He doesn't have game shot anymore.
Right.
So then I go down, and I just happened to nail the double bull on my second dart, and I just threw one on top of it, and game was over. But I was like, unbelievable. And what he basically said was like, well, I was going to go trip and close it on my third dart. And I'm like, okay. He understands that he needs to close
every round he was going to do that, though, and he never did it.
No, but he'd miss his first dart and then throw 2 triples. Mm-hmm. It's like when the first dart doesn't go in, it really limits your options. But he should have done it anyway. He should have done it on the 19s.
Well, originally.
Because, no, what I've always said was if you look back on any cricket game where you went second, there was an ideal opportunity where you had a chance to close. Either you took the chance or you didn't, and either you hit it or you didn't, but there's always an ideal chance. So picture this. You have 2 20s. I just close the 20s and get 20 points. I'm pretty sure it was 20. Maybe it was 40. I don't know. I think it was 20. And then you throw 4 19s and you have a dart in your hand.
You got to go 20s.
So you're down out. You're
down
you
1
started
point.
I mean, how much?
Right.
What do you want?
I mean, yeah, because you're down a point, and then now all of a sudden it takes good darts for you to be down. Now you've got to.
Well, I basically need. I need a 7 count. I gotta. If you close the 20s, I got to throw 4 18s and then pick the 19, and then I'm in good shape. But I've got the lead anyway.
But you're still in. You got the lead, but so now all you do is follow that with good darts. You go up there and.
It was really astounding.
You match it with even a 5 mark and hit 5 17s. That puts pressure on you. And
it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the game. Mm-hmm. If you look at the fact that you're up a number and down a point, and your number's the high number,
right?
What more do you want?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you've pretty much equalized and only had to hit 1 triple. Mm-hmm. and made up for starting the game with a 2 count. I mean, that's how powerful the diddle is, right? So your first 2 rounds is basically 4, 5, 7. Okay, so you kind of, if you start a leg second with a 7 count, usually you're all right. So if you go first and you get a 7 count in your first 2 rounds, you should be okay. In this situation, he'd have had the 19s, been down a point, and I have no, I need a triple before I can point.
Right.
Anyway, so how is that not ideal compared to you throw a single 19 and I throw a ton 40?
Compared to, yeah, exactly. Compared to letting you pound 20s.
I just, when it comes to cricket, you have to use some common sense. If you can grab the high number and just be down a little bit, like I'd say like under a bull, you should always do it. What's one bullseye? You can make up a bullseye somewhere in the next 5 numbers, right? Or get an extra triple, out-triple the guy with 1 dart somewhere and grab the lead. I mean, it's not that big a deal.
Right.
But to give the guy the 20s, especially the 20s, because the better players, are great on 20s. That's their best number.
Especially down 1 point.
I was just sort of like, oh, boy. It was a fun leg to play.
Where can you read about hypermodern cricket?
Yeah. We have a sharp, sassy chat room tonight, don't we? We'll have to start publishing that. I could start putting it on the website. To be honest, I've been avoiding writing anything for a long time. I guess that's going to change, but it just takes a lot of time.
Because of the twinge in your arm?
You're killing me on that. Although I did find something that'll help. So it's kind of weird. It comes back, goes away. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I think I figured out how to prevent it from coming back again. We'll see. Where are we on time?
Yeah, we're close.
Okay.
We've had an hour show.
Have we had an hour show?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have to run down the hall.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm awfully sorry. I know there's not many people listening tonight because I didn't post a link because we were running late, and I figured we'd not make everybody wait and stuff.
Took a long time to go to Toronto and get this or no, where is it? Somewhere in Canada?
So, yeah, it's Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure it should be
Took
in
a while
Montreal,
to get this picture.
but it might be in Toronto. I don't know. Anyway, thanks, everybody, for listening. We will be back the usual time next week. We'll have results from the Winmar, and we'll do a preview of Dartslive. I have Dartslive Envy. Dartslive Envy, because I really want to go to that world stage. That's going to be the best tournament of the year in America.
It's where? Vegas?
Vegas,
yeah.
Vegas, Dartslive World Stage 5, I think. It's going to be great.
Right.
Everybody there is going to have a great time, and I'm going to miss out. It's going to stink. Anyway, thanks, everybody, for listening. We will Dart Talk to you next week. Everybody take care.